everybody, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Indie Film Cafe Spotlight. I'm your host, Jonathan Moody, and I'm here with my co-host,
Presenza, otherwise known as the Moo Cow. Moo, everyone.
All right, and we also have a very, very special guest here today. He actually came on last minute, basically. I asked him yesterday if he come on, and I'm so glad he said yes. Please welcome Ron Ford. How you doing, Ron?
I'm good, thank you.
Yay.
Thanks for having me. Excuse me.
Yeah, Ron, you've been in the business for a while. I think if I'm correct, late 90s, maybe earlier than that.
Earlier than that, yeah. Well, I mean, I was doing crew work, transportation on movies and stuff since 1989.
Oh,
but,
wow.
First film I made, gosh, I'm spacing now. What year was 94? I wrote The Fear. I guess that's where it really started.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna look at your. So on IMDb now, I mean, there might be films that aren't on your IMDb, I'm sure, or what.
There are some that are on there that shouldn't be there too.
Oh, we can talk about that. I actually want to talk about that. I love, that's one of my favorite things.
As you do. I mean, it happens.
I love finding that stuff out. But Alien Force is the first one as a director that popped up. And I've heard of it. I have not seen it yet. That just sounds amazing because like the brief synopsis of it, if I can read that on here, I would look at it. It says a meteor containing the souls of billions of alien predators crashes on Earth. The alien ruler who encased the evil souls in the meteor sends his top warrior to Earth to find the meteor before his evil rival finds it and uses it to destroy Earth. Dude, nice. That just sounds epic as hell.
Well, it's a really hard movie to find. It was only ever released on VHS, and I've been talking to the guy who owns it for years, trying to get to give me some rights so we can release it again on DVD. But so far, no good. It was a pretty ambitious film for my first feature.
So that sounds like a movie that everybody should get a chance to check out.
Yeah, there's got tons of martial arts in it too, if you like karate.
Great.
So we do a show called Indie Film Cafe. That's with the spotlight. We spotlight people who are, and I'm sure, I know some of your films will probably end up being on there. Where we love B movies. We love like that stuff. So, and it's funny because whenever we say a movie's like stinky, that's not bad. Like that's an honor. That's a badge of honor in our.
That is love from the heart.
Yeah, because we know.
Well, I hope some of my films stink.
Well, I mean, and everybody's. I feel like everybody has whatever like films that people would say that, but it's not terrible. We don't ever view that as bad. We always view that as good.
We try to spotlight these films. We try to make sure everybody gets a chance to see them. We make sure we link them to whoever's selling them so that they can get it, preferably the artists themselves if they've got it. And we help put the word out. The last thing we want is these kinds of movies to sort of languish in obscurity. I mean, if we didn't like a movie, we would simply ignore it. We would never do a show on it. We would just make it go away.
This stuff was totally forgotten until guys like you and Tony Masiello came along and revived it. And it's been quite an honor. I feel like I was actually part of something worthwhile now.
We love Tony.
These cheap movies that nobody's seen.
Exactly. And that's why we started Indie Film Cafe, because Paul and I have watched a lot of movies, and I grew up like Ron, you and I have been friends for a while, I feel like, and we've talked throughout countless. I think we were going to work together on stuff or whatever. We just haven't had the opportunity yet to like put it all together,
Well, different coast.
Yeah, exactly. And we will eventually, that's the beauty of time is, we can continue to do that. We can be patient. But I just want to say, like, so that Alien Force movie, I'm sad that that's not available, but if we find it on VHS, we will review it and we'll get the word out more about it. Because we love that kind of stuff, and it just sounds so awesome. Like, I don't know why anybody would not want to put that out more.
I get requests all the time for that movie, asking me if I'll sell a VHS or if I know where they can get one, and I just don't unless you can find one on eBay. But I think they go pretty high these days because it's pretty rare. I only have one left myself. I burned a home DVD off of it also, so I have that when the videotape fails. But it's pretty much a lost film. It's my let's get pretentious. It's my magnificent Ambersons.
That's outstanding. But we are specifically set up so that we can also review VHS movies, because as I'm sure you're aware, every time there's a new technological jump, not all the films make it from VHS to DVD, DVD to Blu-ray, Blu-ray to 4K, etc. There's all these movies that just end up falling through the cracks, and that's a real shame. And
that's my first three features were for Wildcat, and they're all in the same boat. It's Alien Force, Mark of Dracula, and Riddle with Bullets.
Wow.
Mark of Dracula is one I'd really like to get out there. There's a lot. I'll get a lot of requests for that all the time too. And it was the only movie Dracula film made in 1997 of the centennial of the Stoker novel. At least that I'm aware of. It's the only one, and that's why we made it then. And it's in a book about vampire films. Vampire film, it's called. It's covered in there because of that distinction.
There you go. And that's why I've been trying to hopefully get us to a point where we can do some releases, where we can distribute stuff, because there's a giant pile of movies like that are simply not available on DVD or Blu-ray. And that's a shame. We need to change that.
Well, Tony would snap them up if I could get the rights to them. I'm sure other places would too. I'm not sure why Mark Gordon's not doing something with them. I mean, I've argued with him. You better make some money than no money. What's the point in keeping them involved? Sure. And there's a lot of people asking about these movies. There's some interest. So get off your ass and release the movies.
Right. I mean, because you're gonna make money. It's not like these people don't make money off of it. Like, if they release it, they'd make money more than the person of not releasing it. I mean.
Yeah, I've never made any money at it, but I would do anything to get those movies out there just so they would exist. The future generations can see them, and all the people that want to see it now would get a chance to.
Sure. I mean, if the choice is between sitting in a box and doing nothing or being out there for the people to see, even if you don't think it's a very good movie, the fact that it's being seen makes it worth it. I mean, it's not a piece of art if it just sits in a box and does nothing. Someone has to see it. Somebody has to view it.
I'm with you.
So my question about Mark of Dracula is, how close was it to Bram Stoker's Dracula, the novel?
Oh, not at all.
Really?
Not at all. It's contemporary setting, and Gordon. We made Alien Force, and he said, "Well, we can't afford to get a name, so let's come up with a public domain character that we can use." And I immediately said Dracula. And, his idea was that the Dracula was revived by cloning, which I thought was sort of lame, but that's what we did in the movie. It's the basic plot I stole from Dracula Prince of Darkness. It covers all those same beats as that film. It has Lucy from Dracula, Lucy Westenra, from the novel. She has the stake that killed Dracula with bloodstains on it, and takes to this clone scientist played by Tim Sullivan, and they clone Dracula back, and then it goes on from there. We shot most of it at Jack Arnold's house, the director of Creature from Black Lagoon, and good friends with his widow at the time, and he had just passed on, but she let us use the house there to shoot in. It's a great location.
It's kind of an interesting situation, really, because if you go by what's known for cloning, you could bring back somebody. The problem is you would bring back, Dracula was before he was a vampire. You wouldn't bring him back as a vampire.
Well, you wouldn't bring him back either. It'd just be another person with the same genetic code, but it wouldn't have his memories or anything either. It's completely ridiculous scientifically, but this is a horror movie. It's a cheesy horror movie at that.
See, it's funny, for our show we used to have a co-host who joined us, who was actually who is Paul's roommate at the time, and she's such a sweetheart, but she was an intern at NASA, and so she's very knowledgeable on science and stuff. So we show
Everything.
her scientific movies, and then we would have her on the show, and she would kind of debunk the science that's involved in this stuff.
Everything. It
And,
was so
Well,
funny.
I'm kind of a science buff myself. I do that too, but also I love cheesy science fiction movies. So
Oh, yeah.
I'm not watching the science that closely. I made a short film a little while ago that I'm real proud of called The Cosmological Constant,
Ooh,
which the science is very good in that. I think it's pretty well
nice,
researched.
nice. Yeah, well, the thing is, she's out there getting her PhD in it's particle physics or something. I forget exactly what it is. But the thing is, she's kind of an introvert and doesn't really talk a whole lot, except when it comes to science in these B movies. And she gets very animated. You know, she kind of talks about what she thinks is what to her is fascinating, and she'll just go off on it, and it's just a fountain of information. It's a lot of fun.
yeah, so she would love that, because she would be able to, kind of say whatever, why this would be wrong or whatever. But the point is, like, as you said, it's just fun. We're not, the point to these horror films, even if, like, the Giant Claw, we watched the Giant Claw, that movie their science was ridiculous, but
Masonic atoms.
yeah. It's not meant to be serious, like, or whatever, or they would have got somebody from, though I will say something I did learn from somebody who worked on the set of Transformers, was that Michael Bay is very specific on actual, like, stuff being real, or whatever. So, like, military stuff. So, like, if a military guy says, "Oh, we wouldn't do that," he would listen and say, "All right, do what he tells you to do," and I actually have way more respect for him after I heard that, because not many directors will actually say that, especially in Hollywood. Like, most of them say, "Well, we're just going to do what we're going to do."
Well, a lot of studios will have consultants there, science consultants or military consultants, or people who that's their job. They go to all the productions and say, this is feasible, that's feasible, that term's correct, that term's not correct, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that's generally what they do. They will truth, things in the films, which that kind of depends on if the studio gives a crap about it or not, because some they're just really not interested. They're just going to scrub around things because it's not the point. The point is the boobs, the explosions.
Yeah, it depends on the picture whether science is important or not, I think.
Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit more? So after you did that, you worked with a lot of the same people too. Like, I noticed you said Tim Sullivan, who's worked with who's worked with Brad Sykes and Jeff Leroy and all those guys. Like, you guys all kind of worked together. Like, was this like an indie film community that just kind of kept making movies together?
Well, it was all at the same time when digital equipment became available to consumers, and we were able to make movies on digital video for however many pennies you could scrape together and get them in video stores. So we were all part of that movement, and we're all living in LA, and we all knew each other. I don't know if it's like an organization where we all made films together, but our paths crossed all the time. Jeff Leroy was my favorite DP. He shot most of my stuff. What was the other? Oh, what else did you?
Like Brad Sykes, you worked with. A few times, and like Tim Sullivan, people like that.
Tim Sullivan. Yeah. Now, Tim is a very good friend of mine. I met him working on SP Sumtow's film, The Laughing Dead, which was in 1989. It was just recently came out from Vinegar Syndrome, re-released, and beautiful reproduction of it. And Tim was a science fiction writer. He's most known for writing a V novel, the Florida incident. And he's written a lot of science fiction novels, won a Hugo Award for one story called Zeke. Anyway, he's a great guy, and I put him in a lot of my movies till he left LA. He moved back to the East Coast at one point, and that's when our associated ended, at least professionally. Nice. Tim's always fun to work with, so I always found Hollywood Mortuary was the character of Pratt Borokoff. I cast him because I thought he had a resemblance to Karloff. I always did. I think he had a slight resemblance.
Nice.
So I was checking out your IMDb page, and I had no idea that you were involved in so many aspects of filmmaking: acting, directing, writing, producing, all that, pretty much everything.
My own features, I did most of that myself, except for I couldn't play all the parts, but I wanted to.
Well, I was going to ask you, of all the hats that you've had to wear on all your productions, which one is the one that you prefer or that you like best? The acting, directing, writing, producing?
Well, I guess writing first, but directing and writing go hand in hand for me. I want to direct my own scripts. And I don't feel as sure of myself when I'm directing someone else's script. I do a lot of theater too. On stage, I want to act. I don't like directing theater, but in films, I'd rather be behind the camera, although I like being in front of it too. And more and more so as I've gotten older, actually, I think my acting's improved, and it's become more and more important to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I understand that, especially when it comes to wanting to direct your own scripts, because nobody is going to have the vision that you have when you create a story, or you create a script.
Yeah.
And it's a very difficult thing, I would think. I've never had this experience, but I would think it would be very difficult to take somebody else's script that they have created, that they have seen the vision for, and then to put yourself in their shoes or not and sort of do your own version, but to make that story come to life when it didn't organically originate from yourself.
Yeah, I'd say an awkward one was when I was hired to direct a film that Tim Sullivan had written, a V-World Matrix. And we were arguing once in a while about the interpretation of things. And I'm arguing with the guy who wrote the stuff. I think he probably knew what it meant, but I had different ideas on some things. And anyway, it was a little uncomfortable at the time because we were such good friends, but also because we were such good friends, it never became anything terrible.
Right.
That's good. That's good. I'm just thinking of, you look at, say, The Shining and how incredibly divergent and different the book is from the film, and clearly it's a battle of interpretation, and Stanley Kubrick got his way.
Yeah, and Stephen King was not pleased, but I'll tell you what, I think Stanley's vision's a hell of a lot more deep than Stephen's was on that. At the ending of The Shining, the novel, he gets redemption. He blows up the house, and I don't know. It just seems so much more
with him frozen,
so more appropriate that he becomes part of that house. That legacy of violence sucked him in, and he's one of those people too.
I agree 100%.
Yeah. I never read the book, and I've never read Stephen King's books, or whatever, and I adore that he made the stories that have come to life, but I'd rather watch the movies. That's my opinion.
I've read most of the books too. I used to read him a lot. A lot of his early books I like quite a bit.
Yeah, it's a good book, but it's a very different approach to the movie, and B, how much of a blow to your ego is it to you for someone like that to come in and take your material and make it better?
Yeah.
All right.
Well, he'll never admit that, but he did.
Oh no,
Stephen.
Oh no, he hated it so much he made he did another one with Anthony Michael Hall, didn't he?
That horrible TV movie, miniseries version. It was pretty faithful to the book, but the cast was all wrong. It just didn't work.
Yeah. Maybe it wasn't Anthony Michael Hall. I know he did Dead Zone, but
it was Steven Weber, I believe.
Steven Weber. Okay, that's right. Sorry, I was wrong.
And this obnoxious kid and playing Danny was just horrible.
Yeah. I met the real kid who played Danny, at a horror convention.
Scares the Care.
Yeah, he was at Scares the Care. He's a really nice guy,
He was great in that movie too.
Stephen King really can never reclaim it. Now, we went and we watched Dr. Sleep, and we both thought it was pretty good, but even so, that doesn't really come close to The Shining. It just doesn't.
Yeah. Well, I read the book too. And the book is a sequel to Kubrick's film. And there's a lot of things in the book that are changed so that it'll coincide with with the Kubrick movie and the recreating of the sets and stuff. I thought it was a pretty cool movie. It was, you know, it was not The Shining for sure, but it was better than I expected.
Yeah,
Plus,
definitely.
Ewan McGregor was great.
Right. I agree with that too.
And they found somebody who looked just like Shelley Duvall, but I thought that was really creepy, like a young Shelley
Yeah.
Duvall. Like that was really creepy. But let's go back to your film. So I want to talk a little bit. You've worked with some amazing actors in your life. Like you've worked with Randall Malone. We were both big fans of. Stephanie Beaton. We've reviewed one of her movies, Evil in the Bayou. We've also and you worked with Joe Estevez. Like you worked with some
Yay.
amazing people. Like who's been sort of like a person that you were kind of dreaming to have in your film, and then you finally got them?
You know, I don't know I have any of someone that I dreamed about working with, but a lot of people that I really respected and admired. Alien Force had Burt Ward in it from Batman.
Nice.
And we wanted the producers and Gordon, we'd already shot the movie, and so he wanted a TVQ personality, and we got Burt Ward for a day for $1,000, and I wrote these wraparound scenes with the alien on his original planet, you know, and then we cut back and forth to him, so it looks like he's been in there the whole movie, but it was all shot in one day out of the dry lake bed. Margaret O'Brien. Yeah. Right. Margaret O'Brien, the Academy Award winning actress from Amy in St. Louis. She was a friend of Randall Malone, so she's appeared in several of my films. Randall I met through Mark Gordon. He'd worked with him before, and when we were doing Mark of Dracula, he asked me if Randall's grandmother had just died, and he was pretty bummed out, and Mark asked me if I could come up with something in the film for Randall. And so I created this. No, that's not right. It was before that. It was Alien Force, the very first directed film. And so I wrote in this character who's a motel clerk. And then I met with Randall for the first time, and he read the scene. He goes, "Well, that's very nice, but I can't possibly do it unless it's a large part."
Oh,
It's that cracked me up.
hey, I don't blame him.
I wrote another scene for him.
I love, because I just watched Crawling Brain today, and I love at the end of it, it has like just for Randall Malone, he had like his own, I guess, hairstylist, his own makeup person, you know, his own assistant.
It's all bullshit. He insisted on those credits. He did his own makeup, and
That's funny.
That's actually kind of funny.
Nate Waxman, I think, is one of the names he used. Was a friend of his grandmother's.
Oh,
we used to do that a lot too in those movies. Was pad out the credits. I put a bunch of phony names in the end credits, so it looks like it's a more expensive movie. Everyone did that in those days.
That's actually very smart. So yeah. So what was it like working with Stephanie Beaton? She's sort of like a firecracker. She's got like a lot of stuff that she's doing.
Oh, firecracker. Yeah, I can't remember the first time I met her. It was probably through Jerry Pfeiffer at
For Witchcraft?
Street. Yeah, from Witchcraft. But I worked there before I did the Witchcraft film, I think. But we got along really well. She liked me, and I like her. I didn't have a lot of the trouble that you hear about with her on other sets. Now I played the Bagman in her film, The Bagman, and that was a nightmare because it was her and her mom running the set, and there was constantly battles on the set. It was very tense atmosphere.
Oh wow.
So I went and hid out most of the time when I wasn't needed. Smoke weed in my car.
Probably a good idea.
Probably calmed you down a little bit.
I don't want to make sound. I don't want to come out bad because I love Stephanie and her mom. We always got along great.
Yeah.
There was other people she had conflicts with.
She never had conflicts with me. I've loved her forever. Always will. She's one of those people who, like, I admire her because, like, I would see all these movies from back in the day that she was in and would just be like, wow, she's been in so much, but it was only like a little amount of time. It was like 10 years, and she was able to do so much,
Yeah, she was working all the time.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you're the same way too. I mean, you've done like over 35 movies that you've directed. That's amazing.
Yeah, when I was in LA, I was doing one after another. I still am, really. I get restless. I can't not have a project, but I'm mostly doing short films and animated things now.
Well, I was going to ask you, as an indie filmmaker, how has life in COVID changed the way you've approached filmmaking?
A lot. Not anymore. I just made a couple of short films, and it was all back to normal. But I did a lot of animating then. I had my project called The Raven, based on the Poe thing. It's kind of a comic sequel to The Raven, a poem I wrote in the 80s, and I've always wanted to make an animated film of that. And
that's cool.
My friend Mitch has been working on the puppets for it for years. He's in his spare time, it's a 3D puppet animation thing.
Awesome.
And anyway, so it was going very slowly. It was like 6 years he was working on these things, and then he died last January.
Oh.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, me too. The Poe puppet was finished, and the cat puppet, but he never did do the bird puppet. So anyway, I made that film on my own. I hired another guy to make the Raven puppet, and finally finished that. And that I hopefully I'll put out in an anthology next year when I get another hour's worth of animated stuff nice. To have an anthology.
I would love to see that.
Yeah, that sounds like fun. And you've done a lot of anthologies, yourself.
Yeah, I have. And I've done segments for other people's anthologies too.
Do you enjoy doing that?
Very much, yeah. I really like making short films. It's mainly what I do now. I don't have the money to make a feature, and it's I don't know. I've kind of started out making features, but now I'm kind of enjoying short form a little more.
That's sort of like the opposite. What are you gonna say, Paul?
I was just gonna say it's less kind of worries. You don't have to raise as much money or clear as many people for positions, and it just seems like it's a lot less of a hassle.
That's mainly why I started. Was I thinking I could, only limited by imagination with animating. I found out that's not exactly true, especially if you're dealing with puppets, because they can get pretty expensive, miniatures. But anyway, that's the main thing. I can just do it on my own and not have to spend a lot of money and organize a bunch of things. But also, I just love the form.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But it's really funny. That's usually the opposite. Is usually you go from doing shorts to doing features, and now you're doing features to go in and doing shorts. I think that's kind of cool. It's a little bit different, but
all the distributors I made films for in LA, they want to feature films, and at that time, that's what I wanted to make too. I still, if I had the chance, I'd make another feature. Why not?
Yeah, I mean, typically your entree into the film industry, at least for horror films, is usually to do short films that come out in anthology things, and then kind of branch out from there.
I mean, I guess that's true, and that is how I started. Hollywood Mortuary was originally a short film for one of Kevin Lindemuth's anthologies. It's for a Creature Realm from the Dead, and he edited it together. But that film was too long. There wasn't any pace to it. It was like almost 45 minutes the way Kevin edited it. And it's a short version. So a year later, I took the rights went back to me, and I shot new scenes and reshot a lot of it and made it into a feature. I thought the story deserved it.
That's actually very smart. I see a lot of filmmakers do that, like where they'll take a short film or like maybe a pilot, that they were thinking of for a TV show that just doesn't get picked up. And then when they get the rights back, they just make it into a movie because why not?
Well, you've seen Monster History 101?
Yes, a little while ago. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's one short in there, Game Camera. I think it's the last one. in the film. Was a short film we made for Demon Chaser Festival. Won Best Special Effects. It's a good little horror film. One of my favorite short films. And that we turned into a feature also a few years later. You can see that feature on what's it called? POVhorror.com, not SOV, POV, point of view. They only do found footage films.
Oh, wow.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
That's
interesting.
Our first cut of Game Camera was too long, and it had really terrible pacing. But they've cut it down to an hour, and it's really tight. And it's the movie it should have been on long. If you get a chance, check it out. We'd love to get some reviews on it, so we can maybe get on some better platforms. But
Sure.
only cost you 99 cents to see it in an hour of your time.
Well, I was gonna ask you if there were places like Tubi or Amazon Prime where we could see some of your films.
I don't think so. Hollywood Mortuary you could probably find on Amazon. You could at one time anyway. Netflix used to have Tiki, but they haven't for years. I'm hoping to get Game Camera on Tubi. That's the goal, is to get enough hits and reviews on there that they'll be interested.
Okay, that sounds interesting.
Well, actually, it looks like was the Cascadia Treasure. It's but that's I guess you acted in that, right?
Yeah, I was the main heavy villain in that, and good little movie, a family picture. My friend James Temple made. Vivandier is another film, but he made it's a Civil War drama. I play the evil Confederate colonel in it.
And Witchcraft,
best movie role I've ever had. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was going to say Witchcraft 11 is also available on Tubi. So both those are available on Tubi if people want to go check them out.
Yeah, I'm sure there's like a million of the witchcraft movies and everybody wants to see them.
Yeah, mine's the best one.
Well, I mean, yeah. So tell us about that, because we know like the Witchcraft's been around. What, they have like 16 movies so far right now. And how did you get them? I think it's 16, but I could be wrong.
I don't have to look, but yeah, I mean, I've only seen like 3 or 4 because
yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I skimmed a lot of them before making mine. I don't think I saw many of them all the way through.
Dustin has seen every single one of them.
Oh,
yeah, I do know that, and he posts about it once in a while.
He'll probably tag you in ones that you do, or whatever. Like he'll tag you in a part 11. So how did how did you get involved in that, and B, when you were working on it, how incredibly fun was it to work on?
Okay, it started at the Sterling. Worked with Vista Street a lot, and so Sterling came to me. He said, Jerry Pfeiffer ran Vista Street, had this project, these Korean investors, which was they were going to call Turburator, and it's a ripoff of Terminator, where the Terminator comes down and he's having to get it's a female Terminator. She has to get sperm from men, so to repopulate her planet. So she goes around. It's Stephanie Beaton. She goes around.
I'm loving it already.
So the whole movie is just sort of fucking guys, and then they were going to cut in the actual effects from Terminator in the movie, because it's Korea. They don't care about copyrights. So, and the money was ridiculous, and they wanted nude women every day, different women on this, and Jerry said. I told him, I'll take on this project for you, but you got to promise me that I'll get to do Witchcraft 11, because it was such a popular series. I wanted to make one, and I said, and I want to shoot it on film, because I had never made a movie on film to that point, and he agreed, and I got that damn thing done. By God, it looked like shit, but it got done. I pulled every favor I knew. Everybody I knew was in that movie, and we had new naked women every day, and
you're describing
I don't know how I pulled it off, but I did.
He's describing my movie version of heaven. I want you to know this.
Is that movie available?
It's available in 2 different versions that Jerry cobbled in with stuff from other movies. One's called A Passion to Kill, and one is called Red Light Stalker.
Nice.
I love both titles.
And he had a bunch of other movies that were incomplete or whatever that had some of the same actors, the same actresses. So he cobbled this thing together. It doesn't make no sense at all.
I will search for either one of those versions. Trust me, we'll do that on our show because
Passion and Kill's not too hard to find, I don't think.
It sounds like it's right up my dark, scary alley.
Well, also Paul has a show called Sexploitation Sleazecast, so that might also be a good one for that one too.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
Yeah. But yeah, it is, that's just amazing. So I'm glad you got to what?
I was gonna say I used a pseudonym on that film. It's directed by Matt Cobb.
Was there a reason you chose that name?
Yeah, it was Matt Cobb, Macabre.
Cute.
I don't even know why it didn't even like register when I heard it.
I guess it beats Alan Smithy.
Yeah, and there's a scene in the movie where Ted Newsom, he's this rapist, and he keeps raping this girl, and then by the end of the film, she's in love with him and chasing him around. And I said, yeah, no fucking way am I putting my name on that thing. I'll finish the movie so I can do the witchcraft film. But
oh Lord,
that was probably a very prescient move on your part.
So,
well, I don't know. I tell everyone about it, so everyone knows I did it anyway.
Well, it's not on your IMDb, right? So
I'm not sure. I don't know. It might be.
So tell us a little bit about working on the witchcraft movie.
It was a blast. I mean, we were shooting on film, and so I'm moving pretty darn fast. So I was getting enough coverage, but not any more than I needed. Not doing a lot of takes. And then I delivered the film. Jerry got mad. He said he'd never had someone deliver so little footage for a feature film before. And I said, well, that's because I'm saving you money. It'll cut. Just trust me. And it did. It'll cut together. But we had a blast making it. Yeah, it was a lot of work and constantly moving. But I love all the people involved, and we had a lot of fun.
So
when you're directing, do you have like a shot list, or just a whole bunch of just scenes broken down visually, or how do you what's your
I have a rough
process?
shot list. Yeah, that I jot down on a piece of paper, and have that with me in the script pages and a clipboard when I'm directing. We veer from them all the time. It depends on when you get on location, everything changes. But I prepare a shot list, so I make sure I get all the coverage that I need to make the movie cut together.
No, that's cool, because I noticed not everybody uses those. Some folks are very I don't want to say experimental, but they just kind of wing it.
Well, I think those people probably don't understand the cinema, the grammar of cinema as well as I do.
Hey, I do that sometimes. Like I wing it. I like to wing it because I like.
If you know what you're doing, you can wing it. But I mean, if some guys they cover things that aren't going to work. They'll cover both sides of a scene. And you're breaking the line. You can only use one or the other. So
right.
They shoot, stuff like that where they don't understand the actual grammar of film. I wing it sometimes too. I've done enough of these things that I can. I know I need a master shot and coverage of each person, and inserts. And
I mean, I'm pretty basic when it comes to directing. I want to start getting into more visual stuff, but like I'm pretty basic. Like I know we need to get the master shot, that we need to go into close-ups or over the shoulder or whatever, I'll work with my DP, and we generally just go right into whatever, like we know together, like sort of what visually we're expecting from this, from the scenes. So but you're right. You need somebody, especially if you're sort of new into this business as a director, you need to find somebody who is an experienced DP. Because that's my biggest thing is if you're inexperienced, you need somebody there that is experienced, because otherwise, it's going to be crap if you both don't know what you're doing.
Right. And the problem is that you could have the opposite issue where the movie, instead of being about the story, is about the shots, and you don't want it to be that. You don't want it to be focused on, it's this angle and this angle and this angle, and you're like,
look how brilliant I am with my brilliant angles.
Exactly. So you don't want that either. You want a good balance.
Yeah, John Ford had the right attitude about that. He said that the cuts should be seamless. That you don't realize they're happening if it's done right. You know, you're just stuck in the story and nothing's calling attention to itself. You know, as far as taking you out of the movie, like a cool shot. You know, Hitchcock always hated those shots through the fireplace. You know, in the house. Like, how the hell they get the camera back there?
Yeah. No. So John Ford, no relation to you, I'm guessing.
No, I wish. One of my favorite directors.
Do you get that question a lot though? Like people wondering if you're related to him?
No, I think most people into these movies don't know who the hell John Ford is. Probably.
Oh wow.
You know, that's kind of sad. You know,
was that a bad thing to say?
No, it's just no, but it's sort of sad because Paul and I, we do shows that aren't just indie film stuff. We do, you know, a show called Criterion Watch. We do a show called Film Freaks. I mean, we love all types of films, and John Ford is
classics.
When I was a kid, though, I hated westerns, so I discovered John Ford later in life. You know, it was all about genre when I was a kid, but as I got older, I started, you know, seeing movies as an art form and how they were put together. And very few people can do it as well as Ford did.
Well, that's a natural segue into the next question. Then who would you say are your biggest influences on your directing style or filmmaking style?
Well, influences. I don't know. My favorite directors would be, I don't know if they've influenced me any more than in my sense of taste, I suppose, would be Orson Welles, John Ford, Charles Chaplin. They're the greats. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I've emulated them or, you know, been influenced visually from them. Usually I'm just trying to get the damn story done. I think of myself more of a storyteller. And I'm, you know, we're always shooting so fast. I'm just getting what I need to tell the story. I suppose maybe Roger Corman, you know, when he wanted to, he could be a pretty elegant director, but it was always about getting the shoot done first. And I think I can relate to that.
I was going to say the first three that you mentioned, it's interesting because those three are pretty well known for being very meticulous directors.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I'll also go and say like Orson Welles and William Wyler should, you know, are always up on that sort of list of those kind of people. I don't think Paul's as big a fan of William Wyler as, you know, a lot of those other guys. You know, he's done a lot of more, I guess, depressing films, you know.
Well, I like Wyler fine. I don't think he's on the level with Wells or Ford, but I like his movies a lot. I just thought of someone else, but now I'm spacing again.
It happens. Maybe you'll remember it in a few seconds. But with that being said, all those, you know, people that you admire or whatever, do you ever like look back at those films and think about your films and, you know, and try to kind of think about doing something similar to those things, or do you like just doing your own?
Well, I think about it, yeah. But no, you know, I'm influenced by them and the kind of stories that I write and the way I tell a story. Visually, I don't feel as adept with camera and technical stuff as a lot of directors. I know what I want, and you know, I'm more about telling the story. I wish I was more adept at that so I could go more deeply into the visuals and things. But usually it's, you know, it's about budget and time. A lot of times in those feature films, we had scenes that were supposed to be shot at night. We'd rewrite it so it was daytime just because it's, you know, it's too expensive and too hard to shoot at night. So I think budget's really influenced a lot.
Sure. I mean, you got to look at the fact that Orson Welles, even for the first half of his career, Charles Chaplin and Ford, they all had the backings of studios and the money of studios. And when you're an indie filmmaker, you're going to have to just make with what you've got.
Yeah, well, Wells not so much in his later films, but yeah, in the beginning he said it's the greatest toy train that any boy ever had. Movie studio.
So I want to bring this up. So you said the stuff about the nighttime shoots, and we've been sort of lucky, Paul and I, because we work on films that have a DP who has lights that are, I guess, what is it? They're powered by battery power, not battery power, something like that. Like they're very, they don't have electricity, and everything. So they don't have to run the electricity, or you don't have to get a generator out there, which is,
daylight tuned, which is really nice.
Yeah. And so, but for a long time, especially when you were probably making movies, having those lights out there, you would have to get a generator to do, like, if you're doing stuff out in the woods or whatever.
Access the power, right?
So so you have to get generators so it makes noise, and then everything like that. It's just it's such a pain. So I get rewriting it to make it day just to get away from the hassles of having to do that.
You lose so much atmosphere too, but when they're shooting those movies at Randall Malone's house, we could do a lot more night stuff because it was all based in that one house, and he had balconies up there. You could get up in there, and it was. You'll see if Dead Season's coming out in December from SOV Video, and that movie was shot at Randall's house. There's a lot of night scenes in it. It's probably my favorite feature.
Is it the same house that's in Crawling Brain?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I like that house. I thought it was really neat.
That's Randall Malone's house. Nice. And that was the deal in those days of Randall. If you gave him a substantial role in the movie, then you could shoot the movie at his house.
That's awesome.
Very versatile. I way back to Things 3, Dead Time Tales. That was at Randall Malone's old house, but it's the same ornate furniture. That thing is, even Hollywood Mortuary was the first time I used it. It worked as a funeral parlor. It worked as an.
Uh-oh. Did we lose you, Ron? Hey, oh crap. I think we lost both of them. Oh no. Uh-oh.
A more modern Dracula where you're cloning him, because if you're going to try to make something more close to the original story, you're going to have to come up with a castle or something that passes for a castle, and that's not easy to do.
You need period costumes and horses and carriages and shit too. Right. Exactly. I made one Western. It was a nightmare working with horses, but it's also one of my favorite films.
Sorry guys, I actually just lost you guys for a second, so I'm hoping that it kept you guys on, because I'm okay. Well, yeah. So just letting you know that we might have lost what you guys said, but it's okay for like a few minutes.
Is Obi over there causing trouble?
No, it's saying my connection is unstable, just like my love life. Anyway, so yeah, you were talking about you'd have to get castles and stuff, is what I heard, like the last.
And horses.
Yeah, we would make a period Dracula film.
So tell me about the horses. Why were they such a nightmare? I guess because you can't really control them and they're huge.
Yeah, and terrifying. They were Mitch's horses. They weren't really riding horses. They didn't get rid very often, and they were skittish. And the three guys that rode them in the film, every one of them got bucked off the horse.
Ooh, wow.
So it was scary. So I kept the horses to minimum in it.
Were they the actors or were they the stunt people?
They were actors. We didn't have stunt people. This is no budget movie making, man. But that one's in Monster History 101 too. We did these miniature sets and shot them in the foreground to make Mitch's backyard into a Western town. It was really effective. I was really very pleased with it. It's one of my favorite movies. Interesting thing about it too is in Dead Time Tales, the middle story with Randall Malone as the gangster was based on a Kipling story, Mark of the Beast. And my Western, Man Without a Saddle, is based on the same story. But it fleshed out a lot more. It's a lot deeper film, I think.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Played for laughs in Dead Time Tales.
Yeah. Well, I like the title, and that's another thing. I always love your titles. Like do you come up with the titles first, or do you come up with it after the movie is written?
Not always. The Crawling Brain, Dead Season were both titles first. Hollywood Mortuary also. Randall Malone came up with that title. He pitched it to me. As a matter of fact, he said, we're gonna make a movie called Hollywood Mortuary, Ron. And he proceeded to tell me the exact plot of The Incredible Dr. Marcusson from the Boris Karloff thriller series, which had been on TV the night before, surprisingly enough.
Maybe that's where he got it, where he got, like, maybe it was just in his head like that. And,
whatever. I said, I love the title, but we're not going to rip off Thriller. So I wrote this other story about a makeup artist. And later on, one of the critics pointed out that it could have been ripped off from How to Make a Monster. And then I realized it probably was unconsciously.
How many movies have we seen that have these great catchy titles and it turns out not to be, not to be anything even like the title? But I am always pitching catchy titles to Mr. Moody here, and he's never seems to be particularly interested in any of them, even though everybody else is like, wow, I'd love to see a movie titled that.
Yeah, a lot of my films were titles first, and I ran with it. Other ones not like The Raven, the film I just finished. For some reason, it took me years to come up with the right title for that, because it's a sequel to The Raven, the poem. So it's The Raven, RAVIN apostrophe.
Interesting.
Okay.
And it took me,
like he's Raven, like mad or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that. That's really cool.
Yeah, that's neat.
In a way that sort of works for like The Raven. It's maybe that was sort of the double entendre that Poe kind of went with. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah. No, I think it's thinking more as it's a symbol of death. It's he's can't get over his grief for this woman, and the Raven keeps telling him, nobody, it's forever, nevermore will you see her.
Exactly. So you're a Poe fan then, I'm guessing.
Deeply, yeah. From one of my earliest influences.
Yeah, he's great. He's fantastic. I think he lived in Virginia, didn't he, Paul?
Yeah, he did, mostly in Maryland, but he came down here to Fort Monroe, and he actually was posted here for about a little over a year, and then he actually paid somebody to take his place, because you could do that back then. And
yeah,
he left.
Yeah, he was in military school in Virginia, but mostly he lived in Baltimore.
Mm-hmm. So if you had the option to shoot any Poe story at all, and money was no object, what would you shoot?
Ooh.
That's a big question.
Yeah.
They've all been done so many times, but so few of them have been done
right,
faithfully. Hop Toad.
Oh, that's interesting. That's
Hop Frog.
Yeah.
It was called, they changed it to Hop Toad in the Corman movie. He kind of combined it with Mask of the Red Death. That's the only other time that story was filmed that I know of. No, there's all right. No, I'm confusing two things. It's not a Poe story. All right. Yeah, that'd probably be it. It would be that one, or God dang. I mean, I love the Telltale Heart, but it's been done so many times. House of is awfully brilliant.
It was one of my first shorts I ever like horror shorts. I did a movie called Blackout. It was very much Telltale Heart, but it wasn't the same. I didn't copy exactly the thing. I just sort of, took the idea of, being guilty, for murdering somebody, and everything. Yeah. So, but, like, that's the thing, like, Telltale Heart has been done a million times, but like not many have done it, the way that it's written by Poe.
Yeah, that animated film from the 50s is pretty close. That's probably the best version of it.
What about, it's not so much Poe, but what about Lovecraft and say all the cosmic horror kinds of stuff? Were you interested in that? Because that's a very different kettle of fish.
Yeah, I'm sure very interested in it. I haven't read all of his stuff like I have with Poe, but I've read enough of it. Wrote a script for in the Mouth of Madness. Is that what it's called? I wrote a script for that a long time ago, which nothing that
that's
came
cool.
of. I also wrote for Dave Dakota. I wrote a version of Mask of the Red Death. He hired me to write a screenplay for him, and he never made it, but he wanted a sex change on it, so it was Lady Prospero instead of Lord Prospero. And it was a pretty neat script. I thought it went pretty dark.
I mean,
Dave never did make it.
Didn't make it into 1313.
No. See, at
No.
one point, David Dakota was actually making Poe movies. So he
Yeah.
did he did Fall of the House of Usher. He did
It was during that time.
Pit and Pendulum, I believe, stuff like that. So he was doing Poe stuff, but that would have been awesome to see your version, for David Dakota. But you would have had to have written guys who were shirtless the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe get Sam Neill. You never know, like from the Hollywood version.
Dave's a great guy. He's a good friend.
Yeah, he's great. I'm loving that he's doing like Lifetime now, because like he's actually making Lifetime fun again, like that kind of stuff. I would like to see him do some more horror, like back to regular horror, soon.
Yeah, me too. But, he's got to go where they pay the checks.
I'm sure somebody gave him, was a good amount of money to do a horror film. You would jump at the chance,
Sure, sure.
That's the thing. But you're right. It's where you go, where the money goes. And everything.
So if you had the opportunity to do a Lifetime romantic comedy movie, would you do it?
Of course. In a
Yeah.
heartbeat. Well,
Yeah.
for one thing, it'd be good money. A lot more money than I make on these other things. And the other thing, I don't necessarily dislike romantic comedies. I dislike bad ones, which I
There's so
admittedly
many
are
of those.
most of. Yeah. But there's a lot of romantic comedies that I like very much.
Do you have a romantic comedy script in you someplace?
I worked on one years ago. I never finished it. I've thought about it a lot. Mine was kind of a William Shatner type character at a convention, and this teenage girl goes apeshit for him, and she sneaks into his room, and he didn't want people to think it's an uncompromising situation. But anyway, he falls for her mother, and that's where the romance develops.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah,
Can be called Convention.
I had one that was that I was going to do, and it was originally called Unromantic Comedy, and then somebody made a movie called Romantic Comedy. It was like the same. It was a similar premise, and I was so fucking mad. I was like, especially since Unromantic Comedy sounds better and funnier, but whatever.
Yeah, I was going to make a film this year called Bride of Bigfoot. And
speak of the
I
devil.
found on YouTube there was a movie called Bride of Bigfoot.
Bigfoot's
I
Bride.
watched it, and it was bad. It was really bad, but it was basically the same goddamn story that I'd written.
What?
So
Wait,
it's pretty similar.
Did Sasquatch go into a portal and disappear at
At
the end?
yeah.
What?
That wasn't like mine. But, that was the best thing in the movie. It's like the whole movie changed. It was about something else in that last second of the film.
We reviewed it, and we didn't. I mean, it's not very good, but
it's awful.
It's so outrageous and weird, and
it had its moments because it was so strange. But anyway, so I changed my project. It's now Bigfoot in Love, and I made a comedy. It's a completely different story, and that's going to be coming out in an anthology next year called Love and Monsters. Tangia Atomic, and I don't know if Joe Sherlock's involved or not. But
oh my god!
Anyway, I don't know if he is.
I love Tangia Atomic. She did the Manos.
She did the sequel to Manos.
Sequel. Yeah. I don't know if you've seen that yet, Paul, but there's a sequel to Manos.
No, I've heard many things about it. I haven't seen it yet. I want to.
But yeah, I mean, that's it. The idea of this one is each one of us making a monster movie, and then there's a dating video that corresponds with
That's cute.
it. So I've got the short film where Bigfoot's chasing after this woman, and then the dating video where Bigfoot's talking to the camera and saying what he's looking for in a woman. He's just and it's all subtitles.
It's funny because I've always wanted to do something where instead of Bigfoot, it's a very different monster. It's like, very large elbow. And so there's this creature with a very large elbow wandering the woods. It's scary or anything, but it's just ridiculous because, why would anybody be afraid of somebody who's got a very large elbow? Well, why should anybody be afraid of somebody who has very large feet? That doesn't really make any sense either. So,
well,
it's funny.
I think more or less they're not afraid of the feet, but they're afraid of the what is
the giant ape-like creature above it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Very large elbow.
Yeah.
So yeah, I didn't have any money. I bought some prosthetics online, and Tyner was makeup in all my movies. Just incredibly talented guy and really dedicated to that shit. He passed away last January, so I had to hire someone new this time. So I just bought a bunch of stuff. I bought rubber hands and the prosthetic, and for the suit we got a ghillie suit is that the hunters wear.
Oh yeah,
camouflage. I got those, some that are tan.
That was in our Bride of Bigfoot movie. That guy was.
Yeah, he was. He wasn't even a real Bigfoot though. He's some kind of interdimensional alien.
Couldn't even begin to say what he was.
Nope.
I don't either. I mean, that's probably why they did that, because they couldn't afford to get a really good Bigfoot costume.
Mm-hmm.
You hear that, Dave Wiscovich? Whatever they say about suburban Sasquatch, you came up with a Bigfoot suit.
Yep.
That's right.
Exactly.
Two of them. There's Bigfoot and his mate in my film. We have two of them.
Nice.
All right. Well, we're coming to the end of the episode. Thank you so much. Is there anything you wanted to plug right now that you didn't get a chance to?
Well, the Dead Season's coming out from SOV Horror on December 1st. You should all get that. And it was released once before, Blood Banquet, he changed the title to Craven Cove Murders. So this is the first time it's released in its original title. And this is a title, William Combs was the guy who financed that. He said he wanted to make a movie called Dead Season. So that's another one that started from the title. But,
awesome. Just like The Crawling Brain, right?
But when Blood Banquet, okay. Yeah, same guy, except the crawling title.
Okay, awesome.
Right, can't go wrong with a title like that. I mean, you're gonna want to see a movie called The Crawling Brain.
That's why I looked at it. Yeah.
And please tell me there's a brain that crawls.
Oh, there is. Yeah, he crawls a lot.
Yes.
He also sucks out, and what brain does,
Outstanding. Well, I definitely want to check that out. So you have to let me borrow it, Moody.
Definitely. You can definitely borrow, or you can go to sovhorror.com and buy it.
It's one of my best. I think it's buy your own. It came out close to the movie I saw in my head. My vision for once, pretty close.
Very nice.
Well, thank you, Ron. And thank you everybody for checking this
frozen
out. Oh, great. I know you guys are frozen too.
Are there now?
There you are.
Yeah, you guys can see it, but I can't see you guys at the moment.
Thanks for having me.
I think Zoom's trying to get rid of us.
I know.
Can't see you neither.
I can see all of you, and it all.
I can hear you for a split second, and then it disappears.
Working on my end.
Yeah. Well, it's been fun. Thank you very much for asking me.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for coming on. I hope you can hear me.
Thanks for on the show. We
Betcha.
very much.
Are we done? I can't.
Yeah, I think
And yeah,
so.
when I can see this or share it or whatever.
Yeah, I'll definitely.
Yeah, we'll let you know. We'll make sure that you're
Okay.
informed.
Definitely. Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Moody, when are we going to shoot Very Large Elbow?